Bad teachers are lazy. Laziness and incompetence are my two biggest pet peeves. There was this student who had a lot of special needs. He was just bouncing off the walls, throwing tantrums. It was a huge behavior child. The mom didn't really know what to do. She's gone to different hospitals. I was scared for my safety the entire time. By the way, if you guys are watching this, I started a Teacher's Wish clothing brand where I sell online apparel to teachers. If you're interested, you can take a look at the link below. I personally design all of the shirts. They're comfortable, they're breathable, and they're really cute. And thank you for the support.
Welcome back to another episode of the Teacher's Wish podcast. We're going to go over what it's like to really teach in 2025 in today's age. So the first topic we're going to talk about is parents versus teachers. Today, do parents tend to trust teachers less?
Yeah, I noticed a change in that culture maybe about a couple years ago. I remember when I was growing up, a lot of the parents were always on the teacher's side. But in just the past 2 weeks alone, I've had a lot of parents go behind other teachers' backs and just report them to admin, report them to the superintendents and the superiors, and just complain about them behind their backs. And it's very sad to see this kind of change in trend because the parents and the teachers and admin should all be one collective team so that they can figure out a solution to help out the child. The child should be the priority, and we should all, as adults, figure out how to work together and be a team to help out the child. And when we don't have this kind of like collectiveness and people are starting to argue over one another, they're starting to complain and we can't trust each other, that's where you see a dysfunction, kind of like a chaotic way of a school system. And it shouldn't really be like that. And if that happens, then it's really on all of us. I would say if it's an admin issue, then admin really needs to step up. It could be a teacher issue. Maybe the teacher hasn't been communicating with the parents, or maybe the teacher has been particularly targeting this child. You know, teachers are not always innocent in that sense either. Also, parents need to take ownership of their children too.
Was there ever a point communicating with parents, or maybe even during a parent-teacher conference, were there ever periods of time where you felt unsafe because the parents were getting so aggressive, or parents just blow up, or they start overreacting, or things like that?
Yeah, and honestly, it's really sad but true that parent-teacher conferences a lot of the times need to be held in public spaces now and not inside classrooms because of the fear of, a teacher being yelled at, or maybe a parent being too belligerent, or a parent being violent or aggressive towards a teacher. And because of that safety issues, a lot of the schools have resorted to doing parent-teacher conferences in gyms or in public places, or just making sure that there's other witnesses around just in case something goes down. In my experience, I've had a lot of parents that were aggressive towards me. They would lash out. Even just last week alone, I had my parent-teacher conference, and my 15-minute conference elongated to an hour long. And I was scared for my safety. The dad just came in very aggressive because they already knew that what I was going to bring to them was not the best news, because I've been communicating with them on a daily, weekly basis that their child needs a lot of help, needs a lot of assistance, and we might need to consider other options in terms of maybe they need alternate modes of learning and some more assistance in the sense of like extra time, like we are considering maybe assessing the student. There's a lot of things that parents don't like hearing, and because it's a very sensitive and very frustrating topic, they tend to lash out.
Yeah, it's their child, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's their angel. Like, how could you talk crap about my kid and stuff like that?
Right, and I understand that it's a very sensitive, touchy subject. If I was a mom, I would not want somebody to come up to me and tell me that my child is nothing other than perfect.
Yeah.
But it's really in the best intentions that teachers are coming to parents. If I could help it, I could just go into a parent-teacher conference and tell them, everything's perfect, your child is good, perfect angel, no issues at all. But that would mean I don't take my job seriously and I don't really care for the child. If I see a certain need, then the teacher needs to be professional and they need to present these kind of issues to the parents so that they also understand what's happening in the classroom.
Were there ever times, maybe not even at this school or in any school that you've been, where you had to get admin or security involved because parents would get so aggressive?
Yeah, a lot of times I had to even ask security guards to be inside my classrooms just to make sure that we have enough support in case something blows up. I've had to have conferences through Zoom just because the parents weren't allowed to go onto campus because they already were flagged or they've already shown aggressive tendencies. They've already threatened me outside of the school building, and I've had parents at the security gate and they're yelling at me, cussing at me, doing all kinds of things to just get riled up. And it's sad to see that because now I understand where the child is coming from and why the child behaves a certain way. And it's because they're mimicking their parents.
Yeah. To be fair, that probably doesn't happen often, does it? I would imagine probably 90% or like a higher percentage of parents are probably very, very good. It's just those select few parents and students that might cause those kinds of scenes or
Yeah,
situations.
yeah, most parents are really great and supportive. I would say 90 to 95% of my parents are usually really good and responsive and supportive. And then there's like the selective few, like you said, who are anomaly and extreme cases.
Yeah. A little bit more sensitive subject, but we're going to talk about money. So I think it's known that teachers don't make a huge amount of money. A lot of people go into teaching because they love it's their passion. Should teachers be getting paid more? And why do you think that people go into the teaching profession if it's not a super lucrative job or a job that gives them a lot of pay?
People who go into the teaching profession and choose to stay there is really not looking for the money. There's like a quote where it says, I didn't go into teaching for the money or the fame. When you go into teaching, you really need to have the right heart for it. It needs to be a calling. And that's why every school you can think of, they always remind the teachers why they're there. You have to remember your why. You have to remember these are for the kids. You're sacrificing choosing another job with a higher salary or less hours, less intense work because you're doing this for the children and for the future of our generations. Now, given all of that, I do think that teachers should be at least compensated more for their time and effort and compassion. And because we're not compensated for that, that's where you see a lot of frustration with teachers. And more than half of the teachers that I personally know have to pick up some sort of like part-time job. I myself had to have multiple part-time jobs up to this point because I just couldn't make ends meet, especially living in different states like California, where rent is very high, groceries are very expensive. It's really difficult to just get by with a teacher salary. I've had part-time jobs doing ABA, which is a behavior therapist for autistic children and adults. I've done door dashing. I've worked as a waitress at a restaurant, daycares, summer school, like after school clubs. Yeah, tutoring. Teachers will often try to even fight for that kind of summer school job positions because we all need that extra money. Especially also if your school or district doesn't pay for teachers throughout the summer, that's where it gets really difficult for teachers and for like all classified or certified staff who don't get paid in the summer. People around the world, people will say stuff like, oh, teachers, they have it really easy because they don't work in the summer. You guys get to basically chill and relax for a couple months. But the reality is that we're struggling during the summer. We're struggling to get by. This is a time when a lot of us have anxiety because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to get selected for summer school. If you don't have a part-time job and you have maybe a family to feed, babysitters, if you have children at home, it's a very nuanced subject that hits people differently.
What do you think is the craziest side hustle you've ever seen a teacher do? Like within the teachers you work with at all the schools you've worked at, that?
I have one teacher I can think of where after school, she would have kids at the school be dropped off at her house so that her house is an after school daycare.
Interesting.
And so it works for like parents who have to work until like 5 p.m. And so instead of going home where there's nobody at home, they would be brought to the woman's house and she would take care of the children until dinner time and the kids would come and get picked up.
Do you think having a higher pay would fix the burnout for teachers?
I think a higher compensation would definitely help. I think If I feel like my work is worth the amount of money that I'm getting, I wouldn't be complaining as much. There's still going to be burnouts. There's still going to be issues with children and with parents and with admin. There are those kind of issues regardless. But I mean, if you were to ask me, would I like 50K over 100K, and you tell me that I will get 100K, I would appreciate that way more than 50K.
Yeah.
I know that people all around the world, teachers alike, and non-teachers too, we're all struggling right now.
What do you think about the idea of teachers being compensated for their skills? So if you're a good teacher, then you get paid more. And if you're not as good at teaching, you get paid less. I don't know what the metric would be for something like that, but it would be compensation-based pay.
I would love that, honestly. I think that if you, because how teachers get paid is through a step scale. They tell you how much you're supposed to get based off of how many years of experience you have, what kind of schooling you have. Do you have a bachelor's degree? Do you have a master's degree? Do you have a board certification? Based off of that, they tell you what scale, what step you're on the scale. That aside, if they were to compensate for, if they pay you for the kind of value you bring to the table, maybe you lead a team, maybe you have a different club, or maybe you presented a project and you're able to lead that project school-wide. If those kinds of things are incentivized monetarily, I'm pretty sure a lot more teachers would step up and take those kinds of opportunities. Not only does it bring different opportunities for them to earn more money, but it really incentivizes teachers to go outside of their comfort zones, outside of just their classrooms, and invest into the school in a more wide scale effort. The opposite of that would be we have an issue with teachers who are tenured, teachers who are just waiting for their pension basically, and they just gave up.
You can't do anything to them.
You can't really do anything because they've been teaching for, I don't know, like 10 plus years, and they're over it. They don't want to put in their effort anymore. They don't want to have innovation. They just treat the job like bare minimum. And I'm pretty sure if you bring them, hey, if you do this for your classroom, you can get a $5,000 bonus. I'm pretty sure that will wake them up.
Going off of that topic, do you think that there's a very clear line between good teachers and bad teachers? Like, are there examples of what you would consider a good teacher and examples of what you would consider a bad teacher?
Yeah. A good teacher is a good student, meaning a good teacher is always willing to continue to learn. Strategies, you should be figuring out how to master my teaching strategies to adapt to the developing world, because every single year you have a group of students who are different, and they're different because we have new technology, new innovations. The world is changing so rapidly. And so if you have a teacher who has not changed her teaching practices since 20 years ago, then they need to realize that their classroom is probably outdated, their strategies are outdated, and the students will probably not learn as quickly and will not connect personally to them because they really don't know. Bad teachers also, I want to say one thing that is my biggest pet peeve. Bad teachers are lazy. And laziness and incompetence are my two biggest pet peeves. If you're incompetent, figure out how to be competent. But if you're too lazy to figure that out, then you stay both lazy and incompetent. And that's what pisses me off.
Yeah. What do you think is worse? Do you think it's worse to be an inexperienced teacher who tries their hardest and tries to get better? Or what about like a veteran teacher who's good at everything, but they just don't try because they already know how to do everything?
The inexperienced teacher who doesn't know anything, if your mindset is there, you're already halfway better.
Do you think that's the case for a lot of new teachers? Like, are they usually pretty passionate, taking initiatives to try to get better?
Not always. For example, in my teaching credential program, there was one colleague that was going through the program with me. The entire time she was just complaining, negative Nancy. She never showed that she wanted to learn. She was mean to the kids. And I can guarantee you, she's probably not a teacher right now. She probably gave up halfway. There's also teachers who go into the teaching profession, but they don't have the heart for it. I sat in through an interview one time, and we asked, why do you want this position? And the teacher said, well, I don't know. I mean, if you want to give it to me, you can give it to me. I mean, I don't really care.
Probably the worst answer you could give.
Right. It shows that you the right heart for it and the right passion for it. And like we mentioned, if you don't have the heart for teaching, you will not survive as a teacher. If you have an interviewee who is slouched over, they're like, I mean, I don't care. Like, this is just a job, right? Like, clearly,
They don't care.
they don't care.
Yeah, you need to care
Right.
about your job.
Even if you come into an interview and you're very nervous, it's okay to be nervous.
That's actually a good thing because
Yeah,
it
it's a
means
good
they
thing.
care.
It means they care. It means that they're overthinking things. They want everything to work out perfectly. They're probably practicing at home.
Yeah.
And that's so much better than being so nonchalant. You're like, oh, I don't care. Just give it to me or not. Whatever. I'll find a different job.
Yeah. There's a quote that says, "A good teacher finds a way, a bad one finds a reason." So I always think of this as there's always problem solvers and problem makers, right? So a person, when a conflict occurs, there's two kinds of people. A good teacher will look at that conflict and say, okay, here's a solution that I can implement to try to fix this problem. A bad teacher will look at that conflict and then complain about the conflict and say, like, this problem is the reason why I can't do this and I can't do this, right? Have you seen that in the teaching community? And are there complainers against problem solvers? And what helps more in the teaching community? Right?
Yeah, definitely. For example, if there's any kind of change in a curriculum,
People hate change.
people hate change.
When
Yeah.
change happens, especially I've noticed with older employees, especially they're less willing to adapt.
Yeah.
Like when there's like a lot of changes and stuff, they're like, we've always done this for 20 years. Like, why are we changing this?
Right, right. And that's where the whole good teacher, bad teacher comes in, right?
Yeah.
Good teachers will find a way, bad teachers will find a reason to complain. And it also goes hand in hand with good leadership skills. So, for example, if we have a change in curriculum, admin comes in and says, this is a change, we need to implement this change. Now, I guarantee you, there will always be groups of teachers who just complain, talk crap, say they don't want to do this and why do we have to do this, and bring up all of these reasons why they're unhappy and why they don't want to do it and why this is a bad idea. That's really a waste of effort and a waste of breath.
A better response could be, if this is a bad idea, what's a better idea?
Right.
Somebody could be like, hey, I like this idea, but what if we did this instead? And they gave constructive criticism to make it better, or gave a better way to implement it that would make you happier, right? Because that's a better response, isn't it?
Yeah, and if there's no better way and this is the way and we can't really argue against the admin because they're the higher ups, then there's no point of arguing. You just have to stick through it and say, okay, how can we implement this as a grade level or as a school so that this can better suit us and be a solution for everyone and be a tool for everyone rather than be hindrance or obstacle.
Yeah. Do you think it's okay to call out those kinds of bad teachers? Or is there a professional way to do it? Or is that sort of taboo?
I think it's okay to call out those teachers if it is affecting the work culture. If people are complaining so much or just building a negative culture, like talking crap about people, gossiping, complaining all the time, talking poorly about their students, these are all things that is worthy of addressing. And you want to address it with just that person first, obviously, because you don't want to be the person who goes behind another person's back. I've had to do this multiple times too, where I go to a teacher privately and I say, hey, I heard so and so. I really didn't appreciate that because I felt so and so. And just have a conversation with them, address the issue, address the elephant in the room, and say, okay, how can we work on this together? Because I feel like this is affecting me and it's affecting my culture, my work culture. In fact, it's actually making things worse. So, do you agree with what I'm saying also? If you agree, then let's work on something together. And if it doesn't work and it actually gets worse and you've had given many warnings and such, there's other alternatives. Hopefully you don't have to go to admin as the last resort, but you can also talk to a union site rep. You can talk to maybe another teacher who is getting affected also and have them go and talk to the teacher. Use different strategies. You're an adult. You can figure out these kind of like remediation strategies. Admin should be the last resort.
What you're describing, communication is key, right? Like having good communication skills is what is able to solve some of these problems. I think that people who don't have the communication skills to solve these problems, it probably translates into their own personal lives too. So it probably means like maybe at home they don't communicate with their spouse, or maybe at home they don't communicate with their family members or with people that, and that might lead to other problems.
Right. And a lot of times you see the lack of communication and the lack of support from the people who are just unhappy themselves.
Yeah.
I saw a quote like earlier. It said, athletes don't judge other people for working out. Musicians don't judge other people for trying to sing a song. Well, leaders don't judge other people for trying to step up.
Hmm.
And that just proves to show that if you are content with who you are and you are confident, you are secure as a person, then you don't portray these kind of negative vibes to other people who want to build up themselves.
It's establishing your own security.
Right. You're deflecting your insecurity and your jealousy and hatred and incompetence towards other people. In schools, there's a lot of girls who work there. And girls are always like this because girls are more non-confrontational. Girls talk behind other people's backs.
Emotional.
Emotional. Yeah, girls don't like going to other girls and just having a face-to-face conversation and squaring things out right then and there. And because we're such a female focused field, we have these kind of issues in other kinds of schools. And I see this and it's just so frustrating because I just want to come in and do my job.
And yet you can't.
I can't.
So we talked about separating good teachers from bad teachers, and there's a very clear line for that. What about for admin? What do you think makes a good admin and what makes a bad admin? Are there very clear indicators for something like that?
Admins are the ones running the ship. If admin is not confident in themselves, if there's any sense where we feel like admin does not know what they're doing, then the whole ship will start sinking and wavering. And even if you're an admin and you don't know if your decision is correct or not, you still got to be confident with that decision. If you make a mistake later on, you can come back to it and say, own up to it, apologize and say, I made a mistake. But when you're making that decision, you just got to stick with it and be confident. Everyone else is looking towards you. They need you for that stability. And so just the way you deliver your message, cadence that you have, the mannerism that you have, your speech, your relationships with your colleagues and your people, this all is important when you see admin. It's not just to the teachers, but also to the students. So my admin came in for an observation, a formal observation. So there's two different kinds of admins who come in for an observation. There's one where they're just in the corner of the room with their clipboard and they're just writing down notes.
Every teacher knows who they are.
Right, and you're just judging them and you're like, okay, are the objectives on the board? Are the students engaged? And you're just jotting down, and it makes you as a teacher feel very nervous because you feel like you're being evaluated harshly, and the students all know that they're there, right? And it's also unfair to even see if the teachers are doing this kind of lesson and the students are this engaged on a daily basis, or if this is just, for the observation. Then there's another admin, for my example, where she came in, she sat at the table with the students as she observed my lesson. She talked to the students, asked them questions. Hey, what do you think this is? It's interactive, it's friendly, it's personal. After my little lesson, I put on a brain break for my kinders, and they stood up, we all danced, we sang to a song, and my admin joined in. She's dancing with the kids, she's singing with the kids. She's not afraid to make herself look stupid because guess what? She's done that with our class so many times in this school year alone. And that's what I think is a great admin, because she's so involved and she is fun. The kids love her. This is the admin that participates in Spirit Week. We've seen her in pajamas. We've seen her with face paint all over her face. I did a show and tell this week, and I sent an email to my staff members letting them know that they're bringing a tool from home because they're going to show a tool. And I also put in the bottom, this is a warm invitation for anyone, any staff members who wants to come in and just watch the show and tell, right? Because I explained how this is really important for my kinders to learn public speaking skills and to just talk in front of an audience and not just our classroom. Guess what? My principal showed up. And she just stayed. She wasn't even standing in the back making them nervous. She was clapping for them. She was asking them questions. She was walking around the room, looking at all of the cool toys and tools that they brought in. And it was engaging. And so my ultimate thing is if an admin walks inside your room and you're nervous, then they're a bad admin. If they walk into your room and you feel supported, calm, and happy, then they're probably a great admin.
That's a great answer. I think that reminded me of when I was in middle school. It's probably good for the students too, right? To
Yeah.
see admin participation. Because I remember when I was in middle school, we would play soccer in the field and our principal would come, our vice principal and our principal would both come and play soccer with us, right? It wasn't every day, but they would come like honestly once a week to just play soccer with us. And I was like, wow, like these people are human, right? So
Right.
then like the students feel way more connected with the school and they're like, oh, like, you know, like we see our principal all the time and we love our principal, right? So,
Right, because the principal is not just the leaders of the teachers, they're the leaders of the entire school. All of the students look up to the principals to see what kind of school spirit they have. Do they bring in positivity? Do we feel safe and nurtured by the leaders of our school? And the previous school that I was at, we had a carnival. And you know those carnival games where you throw a ball and then somebody who's sitting on top of the chair gets sunk into water?
yeah.
Do you remember that?
The dunk tanks.
Yeah, the dunk tanks.
Yeah.
We wanted our principals to do the dunk tank because I think the fourth graders did a really great job with their test, and she ran away. The whole carnival, she ran away to her office. We never saw her the entire time.
Yeah.
She didn't even come out to play any games. She didn't want to get dunked. She never got water on her because we were having a water day. And that's not fun. You know, like kids don't like that.
Yeah, that kind of teaches the kids and also me. It's like if you're in charge, then you can avoid responsibilities.
Yeah,
Right. And
right.
I don't think that's a good message.
Yeah, and you want a fun admin too.
Yeah. Now let's go into the generational divide of teachers. So I bet in a lot of classrooms, you probably have teachers of all different generations and ages. You have your baby boomers, you have your Gen Xers, you have your millennials, and you have your Gen Zs. Do you think there's a difference in the teachers of each of those generations that you've observed, like either whether it's like teaching style or how they do classroom management, things like that?
I think there's pros and cons to different millennial teaching
Generational
or
teaching.
generational teaching. Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. With the baby boomers and the Gen X teachers, they are, I want to say, I've seen those teachers be better at classroom management.
Very traditional.
Very traditional, very by the book. This is how we're doing it, and there's no exception. And that's good classroom management for sure, but it can be very rigid and they tend to be less flexible. The other example was if we present a new strategy or if we want all of the classrooms to implement this new thing, those teachers are so good at doing it their way that they don't like to add in new tactics. The good thing is that they do their way really, really great. And their way is the best way for them.
Very seasoned.
Yeah. The millennials and Gen Zs are the ones who are more in tune with current culture. These are the teachers who are doing a lot more technology in the classrooms, a lot more AI. They probably understand how the world is adapting because they've experienced it themselves. Like we're millennials. We saw the transition from the 90s to the 2000s to current 2025.
The tech boom and everything.
Right, and there's so much different trends that happen, especially in technology. The older generations are probably more text savvy. So they're really good at bringing in physical copies of books and doing the traditional, find the dictionary. We're going to do some close reading skills. And that's really, really important. Whereas newer generations are more about technology. And so instead of like physical prints, they will have digital copies of books instead. And they're teaching them how to do Control F to find a specific topic, which is all very good skills as well. So I think a mixture of both is important in a classroom.
I've heard that millennials and Gen Zs, like people who are more in tune with technology, they actually use technology for teaching ideas.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like going on Instagram or TikTok or watching reels to get ideas for how to set up your classroom or how to teach your kids this and stuff like that. Do you think that's a good thing, bad thing?
Oh, no, that's definitely a good thing. Yeah. The internet and AI is huge in the development of teaching. Nowadays, we can go on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and you see different classroom setups, different strategies, different arts and crafts that you can do with your kids. When I first started teaching, I would go into classrooms that still had manila envelopes
Oh, yeah.
with copies of like 20 years ago. And they would get those worksheets out of the envelopes and they would just make copies at the copy machine. Those papers were running yellow because it was just there for years. And now we don't need those anymore. We literally trash everything and all of our resources and worksheets and everything is printable on Google Drive.
Yeah. Out of all the four generations, who do you think would adapt better to the newest technology that's coming in? So things like AI. I don't know what else they use for teaching nowadays other than AI. Are there other technologies?
Yeah, on top of my head, some classroom tech tools that we can use. We can use different classroom platforms like Seesaw, definitely anything Google, like Google Slides, Google Calendar, Google Drive. We've used Common Curriculum, Nearpod, Kahoot, Boomcards, Blookit, Padlet. There's so many. There's so many. I can list it all right here.
Yeah. Do you think all teachers adapt to it fairly well, or do they have to learn? That's what you mean by like teachers still have to like be willing to learn new things, right?
Yeah, being tech savvy is another skill. You can't just wake up and be good at technology. I would say the newer generation is a little bit better just because they were born with the technology all around them. And especially like tablets. Newer generation teachers already grew up with iPhones and tablets. We grew up with iPods, MySpace. We were born before Google. Right? It's not just the older generations like the baby boomers and the Gen X struggling with technology. I do see millennials, some of them are struggling as well because this is a skill you have to intentionally go in and research about and try different things. And if you don't do that, it's difficult for you to figure out how to maneuver and utilize this tool into the classroom setting.
So next topic is why we stay. All of the baggage that comes with teaching. Teachers don't get paid a lot. They overwork themselves. But one of the reasons why teachers tend to stay is because of the students, right? So a lot of teachers make personal and emotional connections with the students and with the parents and with their coworkers, right? Do you feel proud to be a teacher for those reasons, first of all? Like,
Yeah.
do you think that's true for a lot of teachers?
I would say so. Even if you're an evil, horrible person and you hate teaching, it's really hard to go through your days and your years without feeling some sort of connection and warmth with the people around you because they're kids. They're so lovable and they're so innocent. I mean, every day when I'm walking through my hallways, my previous students who are now in first grade, second grade, third grade, they will always stop and say hi to me. And it's just the most happy and warm hellos and hugs. And they're just like, oh, Miss Park, right? And even that alone just reminds me that I am someone they want to remember, right? They have a new teacher, they've already grown up, maybe 1 or 2 years later. But if they can still say hi to me and still give me a hug, that means I meant something and they still like me even today. If in the future, like maybe it's like 10 years from now, if I'm just that one teacher who taught them how to write their letter A, and every time they write the letter A, it reminds them of me, then I probably had some sort of impact in their life. I've also had like maybe one specific particular case. There was this student who had a lot of special needs and he was just bouncing off the walls. He was throwing tantrums. It was a huge behavior child, but the mom didn't really know what to do. She's gone to different hospitals. She's gone to regional center for autism anymore. And at the end of the school year, I remember his mom had voiced out to me that she really appreciates what I've done for the kid and how it's not only the kid that it affected, but it was the entire family. They were all struggling with this kid and even like the next year, she had reached out to me and mentioned like and brought up again, like how I've made an impact on their entire family. So it's those kind of stories that resonate with me. Yeah, I understood it because I walked into the profession knowing it was going to be difficult and knowing it was going to be a selfless job where sacrifices would be a necessity. And if I were to go back to my first year self and say some kind of advice, it would be to not let external circumstances extinguish your fire. Meaning you came into this profession knowing it would be difficult, and you need to, the biggest motivator in your profession should be anything intrinsic within yourself. If you look for extrinsic motivation, like verbal praises from parents, or I don't know, like certificates or monetary compensation, these are all things that you probably won't get, or you won't get often. And if that's the thing that motivates you, you should think twice. It should be rather things inside where you feel happy when you serve other people. You feel motivated when you help somebody who is helpless, or it brings you joy to teach other kids. If it's in you, you will always love being a teacher.
Right. I think that's pretty much it for our topics, but we're going to do one quick fire segment where I'm going to give you 5 questions and you're just going to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay,
Okay,
one
so
word?
no, you can talk about it, but just don't overthink it. It's just like a quick fire segment where you can
Okay.
answer some questions. So first question is, what's the biggest misconception about teachers?
The idea that teachers get summers off and it's just vacation time. Most of the time it's not. We either don't get paid or we have to continue working. We have to go to PDs, we go into our classrooms and set up, or we work part-time jobs.
One rule that schools should delete forever.
That kids don't get consequences.
And what's your biggest teacher ick?
My biggest teacher ick is when teachers dress inappropriately at school.
Do you think it's for both females and males?
Um, Mostly females.
How do you think they dress inappropriately?
I mean, if you're wearing body forming dresses that go way above your knee to your thigh, and you're wearing stilettos, and you're just looking like you're going to the club, like, girl, you're teaching third grade. You're not going to the club right now.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like for kinder teachers too, like we're on the floor. We need to go down to the carpet and do circle time with them. Like, you should not be wearing like booty shorts to school.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing a parent has ever said to you?
A parent has told me in 2020 that she doesn't want her child to be in my class because I'm Chinese. Because this was during COVID. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm not Chinese.
Did she end up having her kid in your class?
Yeah. But she came into the front office and did a whole show about it. Like, oh, she's from China. She's Chinese. My kid's going to get the coronavirus.
And first of all, it's like, I'm not Chinese.
Yeah, like, I'm not Chinese.
And
I'm
second
Korean.
of all, and second of all, your kid's still in my class.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for the Teacher's Wish podcast. Thank you guys for watching.
Bye. See you next time.
That's it for the Teacher's Wish podcast. If you guys liked the video or clapped along or liked any of the content in the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye. See you next time. Also, if you guys have any comments, questions, or topics that you would like for us to talk about for next week's podcast, please comment below.
And we'll see you guys next time.